It's the hottest people on the team. You know they won't tell me, but you still sleep with Mr. Clothes. You know they won't tell Ruth. About Clark. Or tell Clark about Emma. Or tell Emma about Amsterdam. You know they'll come to the rescue when you get caught in the bar. They'll tell you when your big town is going loop-a-loop-a. They know the best hangover cures. And they know the difference between a hangover and something more serious. Like carbon monoxide poisoning. Headache, nausea, and unconsciousness can all be symptoms. You can't taste, smell, or see carbon monoxide, but it kills students. Protect yourself and your housemates by checking with your landlord that all appliances in your house that burn oil, solid fuel, wood, or gas, especially boilers, have been serviced in the last year by a qualified and registered engineer. You can also ask your landlord to install a carbon monoxide alarm, or you can buy one in DIY stores or at the supermarket. Be a me. Watch out for each other and click share to pass this on. Remember, carbon monoxide kills.
So this was a little viral video that we created aimed at the student market. Again, just to break down this campaign, I don't hold this up on the same level or anywhere near it as the America campaign, but it's an interesting model in terms of how advertising and online can start to collaborate together. The task we had was to put carbon monoxide on the safety agenda. We looked at the research, we did a lot of research up front to understand how people thought of that currently. We looked at qual and quant, and what we found was that it just wasn't for broad, there were a number of values, but the key one was that carbon monoxide is just not on anyone's agenda at all. The smart for us was that people are actually oblivious that there's even a danger to them, even though that all these various areas in the house where they could actually be poisoned with carbon monoxide, they're living throughout the house, but nobody was aware of the dangers that were innate in all of these. When you burn anything, you could cause carbon monoxide, and nobody really realised that. The narrative that we created, and we used TV, outdoor, transport, and radio to do it, this campaign's just launched, so you'll see some of the stuff out there, is that we wanted people to feel that they actually had to watch out for something, and we wanted to extend that narrative through to online. Only this time tweaking the idea a little bit, that we want people to watch out for other people, because that's one of the opportunities in social media. That's why we're on social media, to connect with family and friends. So we wanted to encourage people to look out for other people as well. And there's a series of online tools that we're using on Facebook, outbound email marketing, PPC, and online PR. We will be tracking this, we'll be looking at the analytics, but we'll also be tracking this through quantitative research, which will benchmark. So we'll know where we started from, and we'll know where we're going to end up in the campaign, and then we'll refine accordingly as we go on. A couple of closing thoughts, which I think are important to set some of the context. I think we should be starting here when we get into discussion of whether it should be online, offline, or otherwise. And I think too often we start up here. This is completely wrong. We've just kind of completely skipped the strategic development of our thinking to go into, well, we've got digital, so how can we rear-end digital into a strategy? I've seen that happening. I don't think that's very helpful. It's no more helpful than saying, I'm an advertising guy, let's start with advertising and work back and ask, what was the question, what's the business task? We start here, we develop our planning, and we move through the planning cycle. We look at our market, we look at our brand dynamics, as was the case with Compare the Market. We look at the sources of demand, current and future. We segment. Not all customers are the same. We choose the right segments for us. Some are different, some are higher value, some are more loyal. And we decide which ones we want to go after, and that informs how we want to engage with them. We look at the purchase journey as Compare the Market did, and that's where they saw an opportunity to change the game in the purchase journey. We look at the barriers and triggers to choosing us, whether we're selling a product or a brand, or we're selling a new set of attitudes or behaviours if we're in the public sector space. And then, and only then, we look at our marketing communications and the mix, and we start to apply some of that thinking, that collaborative thinking. Final thought is, and again it's a personal observation, I think we both need to get out of the silos a little bit. I think advertising agency people, and there are some advertising agencies who don't even want to get engaged in this debate at all, which is astonishing to me, but I know of a couple of MDs who have just basically kind of written this off as a fairly marginal area. It's about 5% of total budgets. I don't need to worry about it yet. I think they do need to worry about it, and I think we need to get all over this quite quickly. I also think online also needs to appreciate where advertising is coming from, particularly in the context of strategy development and the context of making choices and segmenting and identifying what you actually want to say to your market to start to begin to achieve your goals. So that's me. I appreciate you listening. Thanks very much. If there's any questions, give me a shout.
out of this problem economically very is encourage small businesses to start up. What you're saying is very good. Two of those examples you gave us were government bodies and one was a large insurance company. Surely the majority of small, medium companies don't have the money to go and buy adverts from UTV, Primetime TV. Yeah, I agree. You have the money from advert as one. Surely that's why the online side of advertising, the small business, and that's more beneficial to them. They can track everything, they can see where their money's being spent and see the return. So surely from most people here from the small people, what would be advice to them in this game?
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I absolutely agree. It's the long tail argument. There's an opportunity now for small businesses to engage in marketing in a way that they weren't able to do before, and I would not contest that at all. I think there's a certain level of argument where it's spread up even to larger businesses, where that's what I deal with. I mostly deal with larger businesses or medium-sized businesses. So there is a sort of an entry level, I guess. But I completely concur with you. I think you should be, as a small business, primarily looking at online marketing because of the very low barrier to entry in terms of cost. Having said that, there's an entry cost in time. The time it takes to do all these sorts of things. When I was speaking last week to a retailer, he owned a grocery shop, and what he said to me was, he was talking to me about doing some design work, and he also then talked to me about he was going to be doing a social media page, he was going to be on Facebook, he was going to be Twittering. And my pushback to him was, that sounds interesting, but why are you doing that? Because sort of everyone's doing it, aren't they? You know, that's not a reason in itself, and it's sort of free. That's great, so you're wasting your time, so it's not free. It's going to cost you time. It may not cost you money, but it's the opportunity cost of the time you take to invest in this that you could be investing in some other element of your business. And my question to him was, could you go out and find a model where somebody else has managed to do this and got some success from being a small analogous grocery business? What have they done? Copy that by all means. But that's where you start to struggle. So it's not, you're right, but at the same time, there's always a cost to doing everything.
I think there was an interesting thing in Niall's presentation before this on marketing. It's two new business ideas. He's digital all the way. We've tried new business ideas, but two of those ideas included leafleting and included flyers.
That's actually new to me.
But the ideas were new with the SME, it's a small business, SME startup, that use your flyers, use your traditional advertising.
They're complementary. We track, one of our clients, we track believe it or not, we actually track how many people receive the flyer, how many people read the flyer, how many people look forward to seeing the flyer, and the figures are phenomenal. And they've grown even more in terms of recession, people that are looking for value. And again, depending on your audience, if it's an older audience, they're more likely to be looking at flyers than they're going to be online. The flyers don't really work very well online also. So you're right, it's using a suite of channels, and therefore you end up with an integrated plan, and it's more effective in terms of its coverage, it's more effective in terms of its frequency and overall cost as well. So you're spot on.